God, who cleaned this? Okay guys, it's raining outside, so I thought we'd do a tyre talk for today. Tyres seem to be the topic of conversation, although it's been superseded, I would say, by gearing this year. Everyone seems to be talking about gear ratios for some odd reason, but in previous years it was tyres. And it seems to be that everyone is on the hunt for the perfect tyre for their riding, for their conditions. And it's very difficult, just as it's difficult to pick the perfect bike, it's very difficult to pick the perfect tyre. There are always going to be compromises depending on what you want to do with it, whether it's on-road, off-road, long distance, and do you want it to be easy to change at the roadside. You know, there are three big variables, I think, or three big factors: repairability, performance, and longevity. So I'm just going to go through the tyres on the CF Moto, because it's all come from the fact that I'm about to fit some Mitas E09s to this to give me a bit more off-road grip. Now I'm not doing the longer distance stuff in the dry. I'm wanting to use this bike in the wet, so I'm putting on some relevant tyres to it. Just quickly with this, these have got the CST stock tyres on. They've done about 3,500 miles, still plenty of wear left on them. They're a copy of the Pirelli STR Rallies, and I've got to say, this is one of my favourite tyres, this and the Pirelli. You know, I'm going to class them as the same thing because this is a very accurate copy of them. It's a very good 80-20 tyre. By that I mean it'll do most of the tarmac work really well, long distance, good cornering grip, and then it'll do dry to moderately wet off-road as well. So, you know, I can see why manufacturers are putting this type of tyre on them, on bikes such as these, and the Pirelli STR is a very popular tyre on adventure bikes because it gives, you know, a lot of tarmac ability, but also some dirt, and it also looks quite stylish. I think historically the Tourances have been a popular tyre, and I would say they're a 90-10, i.e. 90% road, 10% off-road. They look a bit more aggressive than a standard road tyre, but pretty much they're a road tyre. They've not got no block tread, no cut through, so it's not going to drain very well, and you're not going to get much grip, certainly at the front and equally at the back. So that's why I think a lot of manufacturers have moved to this slightly more 80-20 block tyre. Something like these E09s, these have been a popular tyre for a long time now, and they have been updated. Is it an Extreme Mitas something Extreme, which is basically the same tread pattern but just given a new name, and it's actually quite interesting. It's been given a new name and everyone's talking about them, whereas I think in the past people seem to overlook the E09. So the power of marketing is quite strong even in tyres. Now the beauty of these tyres is they work well on the road and they work well off-road. I think you call them a pure 50-50 split. Quite aggressive knobbles, probably the most aggressive for this type of bike you can buy. But when I've had them on other bikes, they've actually been very good, very functional, and they last a long time. I think one downside of these sort of Eastern European emerging brands such as Mitas, Kenda and Hyder now is that they last a long time, but they're difficult to fit. So if you are running a tube tyre, this is tubeless, so it's not so much of an issue, but if you're running a tube tyre and you get a puncture, then getting on and off a set of these by the roadside could be very problematic. So that's probably one reason why you wouldn't put these on a tube tyre, but you would put them on a tubeless, because obviously you can plug them if you get a puncture. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through my fleet of bikes. They've all got different tyres on, and I'm just going to talk you through the pros and cons of each tyre. And then hopefully by the end of it, you'll come to your own conclusions as to which tyre suits you best. But yes, for me as an all-rounder, I actually can't fault these. I think these are a great tyre. But for mud, for winter, for wet, for trail riding, but still with some roadability, I'm going with the E09s. But let's see what we find out in the room next door. Okay, first up we've got the Continental TKC80s. I've got these fitted to a Himalayan and a CRF. Now to me, these are a good all-round tyre. They've been popular for a reason, and they've not really changed much, I think, for decades. I think there is a new update coming through this year, but you know, for all intents and purposes, it's the same tyre. It's a traditional block tread tyre. What I like about the TKC80s is they're very easy to get on and off. So both these tyres are tubed, so if I get a puncture front or rear, I stand a chance in getting these off. Whereas, say with those E09s, I would struggle. So these are a good all-round tyre. Decent front end grip on tarmac, actually very good grip on tarmac, and also pretty good grip off-road as well. So lots of strong points for the TKC80s. The only downside I've really got with the TKC80 is, let me click on this, let me come across to you, longevity. This is a Himalayan 450. I think it's only done 800 miles with this tyre on, and already it's starting to wear quite a lot. So how long is that going to last? Not too long, and they're not a cheap tyre either. So if I was doing a long trip involving lots of tarmac, say I was riding up to Iceland and I wanted to ride up to Iceland, then ride round Iceland, and then come back. These aren't going to last. You're going to need something more durable. Then obviously by buying something more durable, you're getting something harder to fit. So the solution really, if you wanted to put TKC80s on a Himalayan, is get a tubeless version. And then you would be able to fit something like the E09s, and you won't have to worry about the issue of getting them on and off. But the TKC80, for all intents and purposes, is a very good tyre. And I've also got them fitted to this KTM 390 Adventure, and I have to say, from a handling point of view, they still handle so well on the road. I had this bike out in the French Alps this year, and I mean, there's still as much grip as you would ever want in a corner on these tyres. And I think that's why they're a go-to tyre, because I can get them on and off easy. I've got lots of good grip on and off road. They ride well, they're not noisy. The downside is that they don't last a long time, so if I was doing a long distance tour, they wouldn't be the ones I'd choose. Funnily enough, this bike sits next to the Kenda big blocks on this Kawasaki Versys 300. Anybody who watched my video on the Versys 300 will know I think these are a terrible tyre, and I don't know why I fitted them. So Kenda are another sort of, I guess I'm going to call them Eastern European. I don't actually know if they are. It's sort of a bad assumption, but it categorises them nicely for me. So these are a cheaper tyre, harder compound, lasts longer, hard to fit. But in the case of the Kendas, I've got to say the grip level on them is terrible. It's atrocious, actually. Even with 40 brake horsepower, this bike was spinning up its rear tyre in a straight line. No confidence in the corners. So this one is a tyre I would avoid. They are cheap, they do last a long time, but in terms of grip, they fall down quite badly. So we've got another set. I'm going to go through the bikes now. We've got a set of CSTs on the Reihu 500. Again, same as the CF Moto, a good tyre that suits this type of bike, where you're not going to be doing any hardcore off-road. You just want to do a bit of gravel track. These are a good tyre. CST or the Pirelli STR rallies, whichever you go for, you're probably more likely to get the Pirelli STR rally. So if you've got an Africa Twin, a GS or anything like that, this kind of tyre, to me, they still look good. You know, it looks semi-aggressive, but it works well on the road, and it's got enough bite at the back and at the front to allow you to do a bit of gravel track, a bit of soft mush, that sort of thing. So it's a great all-round tyre. Moving on to, I always forget the name of this one, but these were fitted to, these are the Dunlop Trail Maxes. So Dunlop brought this tyre out this year, and it's on a Himalayan. This Himalayan went round to Iceland this year with a fresh set of tyres on. To me, Dunlop really over-egged this one. They called this a 50-50 tyre. Now if we compare that to that Mitas E09 that we just saw, or even a TKC80, we'll see that that's got nowhere near as much aggressive grip as those two tyres. And it actually looks a bit crap. I don't know what they were thinking, but to me it's not a very stylish tyre. It was fairly easy to fit. There's moderate levels of grip, but what I'm disappointed with is how long it's lasting. So around Iceland it's about cooked at the rear, so 2,200 miles or so, it's about gone at the rear. To me, that doesn't make it a great tyre, and therefore overall I just can't see the point in this tyre, because it doesn't last very long. It doesn't last as long as the CSTs or the Pirellis, for example. It offers very limited extra grip over these tyres, and it doesn't last, as I say. So yeah, to me this Dunlop is a bit of a no man's land type of tyre. So I can't see what all the fuss was about, unless they were just sending out lots of free tyres for people to talk favourably about. Probably so. Anlas Kappa X is another Turkish tyre, and I've had these on quite a few bikes. I don't mind the Anlas. They've got a lot more grip than the Kenda big blocks. This is on a Motorini, so a big bike. Now, to me, if you're putting a knobbly tyre like this on a big bike like this, you're really barking up the wrong tree. Now, a bike of this weight, 240 kilos or so, no matter what tyre you put on it, is always going to struggle. Because the issue with the 19-inch front wheel is it means that the tyre is broad. If we look next door to the Vosges, for example, that's 21 in it, it's quite narrow. Now, no matter what knobbly you put on the front of a 19-inch front wheel bike, you're always going to struggle for grip, and you're always going to be compromised by excessive tyre wear, noise, and other variables such as that. So, look, if your bike sports a 19-inch front wheel with a 110 profile on it or section, then it's just, you're trying to ride the wrong bike off-road, and all you're sacrificing is on-road or on tarmac ride compliance and comfort and noise. You're going to get more noise with a knobbly tyre. So for me, the Morini originally came with a set of those on it, and I think that's a better tyre. You know, this has achieved nothing other than upsetting the handling a little bit. So be realistic about what you've bought and what you're trying to do with it. Trying to make a 19-inch front wheel bike a good off-road bike, you're always doomed to failure, I think. Which is why we've got things like the Vosges 300 Rally, which are cheap and very good and very capable off-road. This is a 21-inch front, and this is wearing an AX41 front tyre, a Bridgestone. And I've got to say, this is one of my favourite tyres. I've actually got it on that. I've got set on that Triumph over there as well. These are a great tyre. Certainly on the front, I've had lots of front grip on these, and pretty easy to fit. They seem to last long. Pretty quiet on this bike. What I would say on that, and it's interesting that we generally, we say a tyre, we say, you know, the AX41, and we say it performs well. But what bike are you fitting it to? How are you riding? You know, the way that this performs on this 21-inch front is very different to the way it performs on that Triumph over there. The noise, you get far more front end whistle on that bike than you do on this, because this is a 21 in narrow and that's a 19 and quite fat at the front. So it's all right saying one tyre is good, but it all depends again what you're fitting it to. Now, before I move on from the AX41, which is a great tyre, I've really enjoyed it. To me, the best tyre, and I'm going to go and grab, I'm just going to pause it. There we go. The best tyre on any bike here, fitted as standard, or could be fitted as aftermarket, as an adventure tyre, i.e. where you're going to do distance and you're going to do trails, say Stella Alpina or Iceland. The best tyre by a mile, you wouldn't believe it and you won't believe it, is this Timson. It's a brand that you can't get you know, from a distributor. It's only the tyre that you can get on the Vosges. It's not a tyre that I've ever heard of before. It's not a tyre that anybody ever fits. But in terms of mileage, ease of fit and grip on road and on off-road, it's probably the highest scoring tyre here. It's very supple, so it's very easy to spoon on and off a rim. And the rear, I won't be able to show you the rear. You can see it just under there. That rear, which ain't got loads of grip, but enough for dirt, that rear will easily do 15,000 miles. And then the front, I think will probably do about 20,000 miles. So you've got brilliant longevity, you've got pretty good grip, and you've got easy to fit and take off if you get a puncture. So, you know, you could say, let's move this across here, the TKC80, I've got more grip, but it's going to last a third as long, if not a quarter as long as this is. So what do you want out of a tyre? Do you want longevity or do you want short-term grip? Longevity, short-term grip. That's the trade-off. 310 GS, we've got the Anlas Caprex, which are again a decent tyre, but not easy to get on and off, and I won't fit to a tubed bike. So tyres, there are tyres galore, but it all boils down to what type of bike you've got. Is it a 19-inch front wheel? Are you going to be doing loads of road work? Well, let's be realistic. You want something like the CST or the Pirelli STR Rally. You don't need to go any bigger than that. Continental TKC80 is another good tyre in this 80/20 class. The TKC70 Rocks gives you a little bit more rear grip, but this sort of 80/20 tyre, I think, is the best compromise for most people. If you wanted to go more extreme and get something knobbly, then pick wisely, because you can very easily ruin a bike by putting the wrong tyre on. That Kawasaki now it's not safe to ride, if I'm honest. Whereas that TKC80 on that KTM is still an absolute hooligan bike, loads of grip on the road and good grip off-road. The benefit of the Kendas is they'll last longer, but those ones have got grip and they're easier to fit. Let's go through again. The Bridgestones, the Bridgestones always get, as I say, they're a forgettable tyre. The Dunlops, I would overlook them. I don't see what they offer. The AX41s on the Vosges are very good. I don't do the trackers, Michelin trackers, which people fit to their 300cc trail bikes, because to me they're too off-road focused. And I've seen too many people lock up back wheels and lose traction on tarmac and have nasty little slides because they're not good enough on road. You know, they're a trail tyre, but not a road and trail tyre. And then we've got the AX41s on something like this. You know, but fitting a knobbly to a bike that you're going to ride predominantly on the road, you're not doing yourself any favours. You're really not. So think wisely. Think wisely. So that's it. A lot of tyre testing this year. A lot of tyre testing. And I've got to say, the best tyre out of all of these big name tyres, all these big name brands, is the little humble Timson that comes on the Vosges. That is a fantastic tyre for so many reasons. Longevity, ease of fit and performance in up to, I'd say 70% wet conditions. That's it. The winner, tyre of the year, Timson. Right, over and out. Cheers.